Well, it looks like the censor has been censored. Our disinformation czar is out. Nina Jankowicz complains disinfo board, quote unquote, undone by, quote unquote, disinformation, quote unquote, childish attacks. Obviously, she hasn't read 1984. Ironically, the disinformation board was undone exactly by a disinformation campaign, Jankowicz says. By the way, the last name Jankowicz is Polish. World War II, anybody? Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Castro? I've talked about this several times before on the channel. As you know, we fight against censorship here, preserve great art, great music, our way of life as Americans. That's what this channel is all about. And it seems like you guys like it when I talk about these articles. So I have another article, this one from foxnews.com. Just read you the title of the article. And let's see who the author is here. Another one-take video. It's by Gabriel Hayes, last name Hays. Always give credit to whoever wrote the article. After the Disinformation Governance Board announced this week that it would, quote-unquote, pause its operations less than a month after it was created, the former head of the stalled government agency, Nina Jankowicz, appeared on CNN Thursday night to complain about how the board was done in by right-wing disinformation. No, you were done in by your own petard. Obviously, she's never read the Constitution either. Hasn't read 1984 or the Constitution. Speech is protected under the First Amendment. Miss Jankowicz, or Mrs. Jankowicz, are you married? Single? Given the videos she put out doing her Mary Poppins spoof, her parody, I don't think anybody's going to be seeking her out for a date anytime soon. Jankowicz admitted to the irony of the situation. Her cable news appearance followed a Wednesday Washington Post piece which announced that the Governance Board, a Department of Homeland Security project, another agency which we don't need, which is unconstitutional, by the way, would be pausing its operations. The article blamed the quote-unquote right-wing internet apparatus and its coordinated online attacks for compelling the board's decisions. Jankowicz appeared on CNN tonight with host Laura Coates to vent about the end of her short-lived government appointment. She summed up her situation by telling Coates, quote, unfortunately and ironically, we were undone exactly by a disinformation campaign coming from folks who apparently want to put our national security behind their own personal political ambitions. No, I'm not a Republican or Democrat. These people on the Republican side, these quote-unquote conservatives, which I never bought into this whole idea of liberal and conservative, because if you're going to be a true conservative, that means you'd go back to the founding of this thing we call the United States, which is states are sovereign and independent. We don't have a central authority, which means we wouldn't need a disinformation czar. We wouldn't need a Supreme Court. Supreme Court should be brought back to the state level. Another shout out to Brian McClanahan and his channel, where he talks about think locally, act locally. Love his channel, by the way. And I guess this is a plug for all the channels here on YouTube. Support these channels here on YouTube, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, because it's about free speech, the exchange of ideas. And as I said at the beginning of this video, that's exactly what this channel is about. So the article goes on to say, Coates asked Jankowicz the obvious question. Why was that not anticipated here, in the sense that did you not expect that there would be some measure or some inclination to try to use misinformation to sow distrust in the same thing you're trying to do? Essentially, the question boiled down to, why didn't the Disinformation Governance Board stop or find ways to combat this alleged disinformation against it? Can we just say that this disinformation czar, disinformation board was a bad idea? Now, if President Biden doesn't know that having a disinformation czar or this disinformation board, any type of censorship, is against everything that our Constitution stands for, then he shouldn't be president. I think after this term, he should just retire. You're getting up there in years, Biden. In fact, all these politicians in Washington, D.C. just need to go home. I'm tired of the Chuck Schumers. I'm tired of Mitch McConnell. These old gray hairs, they just need to go away. No, you do not represent me, Republican or Democrat. You never have. I represent me. My local officials represent me. But you people in Washington, D.C., you don't represent me. You're supposed to represent us because you're all supposed to go to Washington, D.C. to air the grievances of the people in your district. But when you get to Washington, D.C., for some reason, you people tend to forget about that. You live in this bubble, the Beltway. Jankowicz answered with an excuse saying that the board had too many other things going on to focus on its mission. Right. Well, you know, DHS is an extremely large department. 250,000 people work there. Why are there 250,000 people working in this department? That's my first question. Can we say government overreach? Government pork? The department had other priorities, she claimed, adding, it's got a huge mission set. She continued, quote, and so at the time of the rollout, I think there were other priorities that were kind of put ahead of this rollout of the Disinformation Governance Board. I think she's referring to COVID-19. I'm not sure here. She then blamed others involved with the board for not listening to her direction on the issue, which resulted in its problems. Quote, unfortunately, the advice that I had given was not heeded about how to communicate openly, transparently, and rapidly. Okay, so here you're saying that you want to communicate openly, transparently, and rapidly with the American public, American people. But you are a disinformation czar. What do disinformation czars do? What did they do in Nazi Germany? What did they do under Stalin? Or Castro? They suppressed information. They burned and banned books. They took down statues. Hello, BLM. Hello, Antifa. Do you not get it? As a result, she stated, quote, we created unintentionally an information vacuum that was filled with falsehoods and frankly directed a lot of vitriol and digging into my own personal life that I think was entirely disproportionate to the amount of power I had at the department. What do you think, again, Stalin, Hitler, and Mao did to their enemies? They dug up dirt on them. What do you think happened in the Soviet Union? Well, under Stalin and other leaders. What do you think's happening now in Russia with Putin and the Ukraine? How much of what's going on in the Ukraine right now with Russia is being kept by the Russian government, by Putin? He doesn't want you to know what's really going on there, what they're doing behind the scenes. Jankowicz mentioned that, did I say that her last name was Polish? Jankowicz mentioned that because of this, she and her family, quote, have faced threats every day for the past 3 weeks. Oh my gosh! The same thing that happened under Stalin, Hitler, and Mao. I can't say that enough. I've said it numerous times on this channel. They were censoring the music of Shostakovich. I want to see people marching in the streets with a banner that says they were censoring the music of Shostakovich in Russia. Don't censor us here. The former executive director then scolded the people behind the alleged threats, stating, quote, I don't think that it is something that anybody should be priding themselves on. Really? Now, she's not a bad-looking girl, by the way. She's very pretty. I mean, she really is. She's got beautiful, I can't tell if it's blue or green eyes, beautiful long hair, brown hair, or dark hair. So she's not ugly. She's a very attractive, I would say attractive woman. Just don't go out there putting parodies on the internet or spoofs of Mary Poppins talking about disinformation. How you want to censor it? She continued claiming, quote, and frankly, the lies and falsehoods that were spread about the Disinformation Governance Board, as I said before, this childish behavior is putting the national security of our country behind this sort of partisan vitriol. Do I need to say it again? Let me read this quote again. And frankly, the lies and falsehoods that were spread about the Disinformation Governance Board, as I said before, this childish behavior is putting the national security of our country behind this sort of partisan vitriol. What do you think a Disinformation Governance Board does? They put out lies and misinformation. Wow. She explained that our enemies will exploit this quote-unquote childish behavior, stating, and we need to stop that because it's our adversaries who recognize that the partisanship, that politicization is exactly, whoa. There's too many long quotes here. It's hard to read. When you're doing a video, you're trying to read this and do the video. It's not as easy as you think, folks. I mean, you have to really analyze this stuff, and you're looking sometimes at small print. So let me read this again. And I'll slow down here. She explained that our enemies will exploit this quote-unquote childish behavior, stating, and we need to stop that because it's our adversaries who recognize that partisanship, that politicization is exactly what they can manipulate and why America is vulnerable to disinformation right now. In other words, I was wrong. I got duped. I got screwed over. I got thrown under the bus. Oh, there's another story out there. Speaking of that. Now they have this investigation going on. Why they're holding this investigation now, I don't know. I mean, this is water in the bridge, so to speak. But now I guess they're having this Durham investigation, and somebody's admitting that Hillary Clinton was behind this whole thing, this scheme to get Trump. Well, of course she was. You think we are that stupid? Of course she signed off on this campaign against Trump because it was an election year. That's what politicians do. They throw mud at each other. And as mentioned before, if we had multiple parties in this country, brought things back to the local level, we wouldn't have so much corruption. More competition is better. Is there any reason, is there any wonder why things are so screwed up in this country when you have two parties running everything and we feel like we have to go to Washington, D.C. as though it's like a god figure of some kind. It's an entity, a deity. The Capitol building is hallowed ground. Did you know that? According to these people in Washington, D.C. And I love this country. Don't misunderstand me. I love living in the United States, the greatest place on the planet where freedom and the exchange of ideas are thriving, and they should, where we have free markets. People can open businesses. They can be anything they want to be. The beauty of living in the United States. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I think it's one of the most beautiful countries or places on the planet. So I thought I'd share this article with you, again, at foxnews.com, because it does talk about censorship. That's why I wanted to cover it. Nina Jankowicz complains Disinfo board, quote-unquote, undone by, quote-unquote, misinformation, quote-unquote, childish attacks. Story by Gabriel Hayes, and I believe this came out today or yesterday. So if you enjoy the video, you know what to do. You can also follow me at Instagram, hashtag Jason Composes, because I write music in my spare time. In fact, yesterday I was working on the symphony that I'm trying to write, trying to go through that. I got to do a couple measures of that today. And again, that goes back to this whole idea of censorship. You take away everything you disagree with, you have nothing left to write about, you have no history, you have nothing, you have no culture. And you can also follow me at Twitter, Cultural Confederacy at Twitter. So thanks for being with me, Cultural Confederacy, saying peace out, stay safe, everybody. God bless this great country, and you all have a great weekend.